One thing that happens with the rig character when we're animating is at times what we will find is that when we move a body part, it doesn't necessarily move to where we want it to be. So if I move this arm, we can see it's behind the shirt in front of the pants. Now if I move the entire arm, we can see where this is potentially going to be an issue while I'm animating that, oh wait, I don't want it to go there. So what's a person to do? Well, we have a couple of different ways. One is we could try and adjust the layer order inside the timeline. Not fun, huge pain. Much easier, working with the node view, we can change that relationship. So if I want this arm to be on top of the torso, well, we can change the order in our node view. So if I go into my node view and click on my character here, what we can do is navigate down to the composite, and we can see here are the different nodes. So if I go to this node right here, and well, because I have something selected, now we can click on it and see which it's going to be. We can see that is the head, that's the torso right here. So that is the torso. This is the right upper arm, and then this will be most likely the left upper arm. So that's the one that we've just moved. So if I want to put the left upper arm or to move the torso behind, we can move it over a few, and now we can see that that arm is now on top. So I can pull that back. If I put the torso all the way on top, we can see now it's on top of the head, and that's problematic. So this is moving our connection points around here is very similar to doing it inside the layers where we drag layers up and down, but it doesn't give us as much flexibility. If we want a little bit more flexibility, so I'm going to just select this. Remember, if I hit the letter R on the keyboard, it resets a peg to its original starting point as if there's no keyframe on it. If I want a little more flexibility with this, I can nudge a layer. So now if I take these two parts of the arm and move it here, and if I want to put it on top of the shirt, well, we can nudge this by making certain that we have turned on the focus on mouse enter, because we need to make sure that the camera view is the active view. And remember, we can do that in our preferences. So either under the Harmony pull-down menu or Edit if you're on Windows, focus on mouse enter needs to be selected. And when that's selected, with this peg selected, I can just simply hold down Alt-Option and hit the down arrow key. The down arrow key nudges this layer forward. So look at it from the standpoint of we're in a top-down view. And if I want to nudge something forward, I am moving it in Z space. So this nudging, if we want to see what we've actually done, we can pull up our coordinates. When I pull up coordinate, we can see it now says 0.001F. That means it's forward. I'm going to just add another view here, and we'll look at our top view. So we've now pulled that view 1,000th forward. So if we had 1,000 layers, it's now in front of then all the others. So every layer has a Z coordinate. So we have X, Y, and Z position for it. Now I've pushed it forward. Now if I hold down Alt-Option and hit the up arrow that's moving it back, we'll see it's now at 0. And if I keep going, we can now see it's at 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, 3 as I keep pressing that key. So 0 brings it even, and it matches the order on the composite or the order inside my timeline layers. But I can modify this. I can nudge it 1/1000th of a layer forward, and now it sits on top or it sits behind. So this gives us options. Now, if we leave it here and I do the whole arm, option forward, we can see how the whole option arm sits forward and the elbow still looks as it did before. So now if I move the arm around, we can see it's on top of the head because everything else is at 0. And this is now 1 frame in front. That's why this arm sits on top. If I want to bring the head on top of here, I can just click on the head, hold down Option, and now the head is 0, 1 forward. But because it's higher in the composite or our layer ordering, that's why it sits on top. So when you do start modifying your layers and changing their properties so that you can control what's on top and what's on bottom, nudging is the easiest way. So it's Alt or Option, then the down arrow or up arrow. Up arrow pushes it away. So when we're looking at that top view, it's pushing it away. So I'll just kind of, if I slide here and move that layer, we can see now it's 0.4823B. It's behind. We can see from a top view it's behind. And now if I go forward in space, it's now on top. So back, forward, back, forward. So this is essentially what the nudging is doing. So now we're F. So 0 is neutral, F is in front of our picture plane, B is now behind. And now we can even, oh look, he's got a little head shimmy dance action going on there. So quite often if you move one layer, you sometimes have to nudge a couple layers to get the exact relationship that you want. But the good part about this, well, let's just extend out some exposure here, is that these things are all keyframeable. I mean, so we're just keyframing the Z position. Now, if I look in my timeline down here, and I've just zoomed in a little bit on it so we can see, currently my keyframes are showing up as white squares. And that's because I've only moved a couple things. I haven't actually added keyframes to all of my layers. But when you're doing cutout style animation, it's really common that your whole animation will explode on you if you don't add keyframes every frame. So that's why it sometimes is going to be necessary when you get here is I click the keyframe button or hit F6 on the keyboard to add in a full keyframe to make sure that now I've keyframed every layer, not just the one that I was working on. And now we can see if I collapse this. So once I go into the group and look at the master peg, we can see that keyframe is a solid dot where when I only moved, in this case moving the Z position or a little head shimmy, it only moved part of it. So now if I go back to my animation tool so I can select something and we'll move that arm right there. Now move the, don't want to move the whole character. Maybe I'll just move a leg. We can see I moved that leg. I only get the white square because everything hasn't been keyframed, only part of it. So it's a good practice to insert a keyframe for everything as you establish each pose that you are working on. That's going to keep your animations from exploding. Now again, remember I can click on something, and if I hold down Alt or Option, right now it's 0.0843 forward. So if I hold down Option and just keep hitting the button, we can see how it's slowly getting close to 0, and now it's on back and going back. So nudging, when you have your coordinates up, that can sometimes help see what's going on when you're doing the nudging. And if you hold down shift, it goes 100 at a time, so it goes pretty quick. And in the top view, I can very quickly and easily start to adjust these. And notice as we get closer to the camera, it gets bigger. As we get further back, it shrinks. So as we start embracing the use of cameras in our projects, this is something that we'll want to be aware of as moving through this Z-space using the top-down view. And nudging layers to finesse what's on top, what's on bottom are all skills that you'll have to deploy to be able to animate smoothly.